When most people think about prayer, they imagine something personal and private. They picture someone sitting quietly, eyes closed, asking for help with their own problems. Maybe they want to pass a test, heal from an illness, or find a new job. These desires are natural and important. Yet there's something much bigger happening when we pray, something that reaches far beyond our individual wishes and touches the lives of everyone around us. The true power of prayer works like dropping a stone into a still pond. When that stone breaks the water surface, it doesn't just make one splash and disappear. Instead, it creates waves that spread outward in every direction. These waves keep moving, touching every part of the pond, even the edges we can't see from where we're standing. This is exactly what happens when we pray with sincere hearts. Our prayers create waves of positive energy that flow through our families, our neighborhoods, our cities, and eventually across the entire world. Nichiren Daishonin understood this ripple effect deeply. He wrote, "If you light a lantern for another, it will also brighten your own way." This simple image shows us something profound about how prayer works. When we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with genuine concern for others, we're not just helping them. We're also transforming ourselves and creating light that spreads to everyone we meet. The lantern doesn't shine in just one direction. Its glow reaches everywhere, touching people we know and people we've never met. Think about what happens in your own life when you feel genuinely happy and positive. You smile more. You're kinder to strangers. You have more patience with your family. You're more willing to help someone who needs it. Your good mood becomes contagious, affecting everyone you encounter throughout the day. The cashier at the store feels it. Your coworker notices it. Your children absorb it. This is the ripple effect in action, happening naturally through the changes in your own heart. Now imagine that same effect, multiplied and strengthened through the power of prayer. When we pray, we're not just trying to feel better temporarily. We're tapping into something much deeper, a fundamental force that connects all living beings. The Lotus Sutra teaches us that every person possesses the Buddha nature, an inherent dignity and unlimited potential. When we pray, we're awakening this Buddha nature within ourselves, and as it awakens in us, it naturally begins to awaken in others through our actions, our words, and even our presence. Nichiren Daishonin wrote about this interconnectedness constantly in his letters. He explained, when one person chants Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, that person alone receives blessings and benefits. When two people chant, both receive blessings. When three people chant, all three benefit. But he didn't stop there. He understood that these benefits don't stay contained within the people who are chanting. Instead, they flow outward like light from a flame, touching everyone in that person's sphere of influence. Consider how this works in practical terms. When you pray sincerely for your own happiness and growth, you develop more wisdom. With that wisdom, you make better decisions. Those better decisions lead to better outcomes, not just for you, but for everyone affected by your choices. If you're a parent, your wisdom helps you raise healthier, happier children. If you're a teacher, your clarity helps you educate and inspire more effectively. If you're a neighbor, your compassion creates stronger community bonds. Each role you play in society becomes a channel through which your prayer manifests as positive change. The Lotus Sutra contains a powerful passage about a physician who returns to find his children have taken poison. Some are too delirious to recognize their father or understand that he offers them medicine. Yet the physician doesn't give up on these confused children. Instead, he devises a skillful means to help them. This story illustrates something vital about prayer and social transformation. When we pray, we're developing the wisdom and compassion to help others, even when they don't realize they need help or don't want to accept it. Our prayers give us the strength to keep trying, to keep offering light, even when the darkness seems overwhelming. Think about the great social movements throughout history. Behind every change, Behind every shift toward justice and equality, there were individuals who held on to hope when hope seemed foolish. They prayed, meditated, or connected with something deeper that gave them strength to continue. Their inner transformation became outer transformation. Their personal revolution sparked collective revolution. This pattern repeats across cultures and centuries because it reflects a fundamental truth about how change happens in the world. Nichiren Daishonin lived during one of the most turbulent periods in Japanese history. Wars raged constantly. Natural disasters struck repeatedly. Epidemics swept through communities. The government was corrupt, and the common people suffered terribly. Yet, instead of despairing, Nichiren Daishonin taught that individuals could create peace and prosperity through their own human revolution. He wrote, "If the minds of living beings are impure, their land is also impure. But if their minds are pure, so is their land. There are not two lands, pure or impure in themselves. The difference lies solely in the good or evil of our minds." This teaching might seem difficult to accept at first. How can my mind affect the condition of society? How can my prayers change things like poverty, violence, or environmental destruction? The answer lies in understanding that society is not something separate from us. Society is made up of individuals, and each individual's consciousness contributes to the collective consciousness. When enough individuals transform their inner lives through prayer and practice, the outer world must inevitably reflect that inner change. We see this principle operating even in scientific research. Studies have shown that when large groups of people meditate on peace, violent crime rates actually decrease in those areas. The researchers couldn't explain it through ordinary cause and effect. Yet the evidence was clear. Something happens when many hearts align toward a common positive intention. The collective consciousness shifts, and reality shifts with it. But we don't need to wait for large groups to see the ripple effect. Each of us creates ripples every single day through our thoughts, words, and actions. The question is whether those ripples will be positive or negative, constructive or destructive. Prayer helps us create positive ripples consistently. It aligns our deepest intentions with the highest good. It reminds us that we're not isolated beings struggling alone, but interconnected parts of a vast whole, all affecting each other constantly. Gautama Buddha, in his original teachings, spoke about dependent origination. Everything arises in dependence on causes and conditions. Nothing exists independently. Your happiness depends on countless factors, and countless factors depend on your happiness. When you pray and transform your life, you're changing some of the causes and conditions that will create tomorrow's world. You're planting seeds that will grow into forests. You're lighting candles that will light other candles until darkness cannot find a place to hide. Nichiren Daishonin emphasized that our prayer should extend beyond our personal concerns. While it's perfectly natural and appropriate to pray for our own needs, he encouraged his followers to develop what he called great prayer. Great prayer means praying not just for ourselves, but for the happiness and enlightenment of all people. It means praying for peace, for justice, for the end of suffering everywhere. When we pray with this expanded heart, something remarkable happens. Our own problems often resolve more easily because we've connected to a much larger source of energy and purpose. Imagine you're struggling with a problem at work. If you pray only about your work problem, you might find some relief. But if you pray for the happiness of everyone in your workplace, for the success of the entire organization, for the well-being of all the customers you serve, your prayer has much more power. Why? Because you've aligned yourself with the natural flow of life, which always moves toward greater connection, greater harmony, and greater creativity. You've become a force for good that extends far beyond your own small concerns. This doesn't mean we ignore our personal needs. The Lotus Sutra teaches that even the smallest creature, even the humblest person, possesses infinite value and deserves happiness. Your needs matter, your dreams matter, your struggles matter. But when we understand prayer as a ripple effect, we see that taking care of ourselves is actually one way of taking care of everyone. When we're healthy, strong, and happy, we have more to give. We're better equipped to help others. We become living examples of what's possible through practice. Consider the communities where Nichiren Buddhism has taken root around the world. In these communities, you'll find people who were once consumed by anger transforming into voices for peace. You'll see individuals who felt powerless discovering their own agency to create change. You'll meet families who are falling apart, coming back together with renewed love and understanding. These personal transformations didn't stay personal. They spread through neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and cities. They created new networks of support, new initiatives for social good, new movements for positive change. One person starts chanting and finds courage to stand up against injustice at work. That courage inspires a coworker who then speaks up in a community meeting. That community meeting leads to a new policy that helps hundreds of families. Decades later, that policy becomes a model for other cities. The original person who chanted might never know the full extent of the ripples their prayer created, but those ripples keep spreading, generation after generation, touching lives in ways we cannot measure or predict. The Lotus Sutra presents the concept of the treasure tower, a magnificent structure that emerges to bear witness to truth. This tower represents the inherent dignity and worth within each person. When we pray, we're polishing this treasure tower, making it shine more brightly. And as our tower shines, it reflects light onto other towers, helping them remember their own brilliance. Before long, an entire landscape of treasure towers is gleaming in the sunlight, each one both independent and interconnected, each one contributing to the beauty of the whole. Prayer also builds resilience in communities facing hardship. When disasters strike, when tragedies occur, when darkness seems to swallow hope, prayer becomes a lifeline. Not because it magically removes the suffering, but because it connects us to an unshakable foundation of inner strength. That strength then expresses itself as courage, as compassion, as the refusal to give up on ourselves or each other. In the aftermath of earthquakes, floods, or other calamities, communities often discover that their greatest resource isn't their physical infrastructure, but the spiritual strength of their people. Nichiren Daishonin wrote letters of encouragement to his followers during their most difficult times. He reminded them again and again that obstacles are opportunities for growth, that suffering can become the fuel for enlightenment. He taught that when we face our problems with prayer and determination, we transform not just the problem, but ourselves. And each personal transformation contributes to humanity's collective evolution. We're all learning together, growing together, stumbling and rising together. The ripple effect of prayer becomes especially powerful when people unite in common purpose. When groups gather to chant for peace, for environmental healing, for the end of hunger, something extraordinary happens. Individual ripples combine into waves. Waves build into swells. Swells become tides that can lift all boats, that can reshape entire coastlines. This is why Nichiren Daishonin encouraged his followers to support each other, to practice together, to strengthen their bonds of friendship and shared commitment. Yet even in solitude, even when praying alone in the quiet hours of morning or night, we're never truly alone. Our prayers join with all the prayers being offered everywhere, in every tradition, in every language. The mother in one continent praying for her children's safety, the old man in another continent praying for wisdom, the young person somewhere else praying for courage. All these prayers weave together into a vast network of light that surrounds and protects this world. The transformation of society ultimately depends on the transformation of individuals. No law can make people kind. No government policy can force compassion. No technology can create wisdom. These essential human qualities emerge from the depths of individual hearts, from the daily practice of connecting with something greater than our small, fearful selves. Prayer cultivates these qualities naturally, without force, without dogma, simply through the practice of opening our hearts and aligning our lives with the rhythm of the universe. When you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you're affirming the fundamental connection between your life and all life. You're acknowledging that your happiness matters, because all happiness matters. You're committing to your own growth, because all growth matters. You're refusing to give up on yourself, because humanity cannot afford to give up on any of its members. Each person who finds their light, who polishes their life through prayer and practice, makes it easier for the next person to find their light. The path becomes clearer with each traveler who walks it. This ripple effect doesn't require perfection. We don't need to become saints or enlightened masters before our prayers start creating positive change. The very act of trying, of showing up day after day to pray despite our doubts and struggles, already begins the transformation. Our imperfect efforts still create ripples. Our stumbling steps still move us forward. Our small victories still inspire others who are watching, even when we don't realize anyone is watching. The future of our world depends on these ripples, not on grand gestures from distant leaders, but on the daily practice of ordinary people choosing to connect with their highest selves through prayer. Each time we chant, we vote for the kind of world we want to live in. We cast our ballot for compassion over cruelty, for wisdom over ignorance, for unity over division. And these votes accumulate, ripple by ripple, prayer by prayer, until they reach a critical mass that transforms what seemed impossible into inevitable. Nichiren Daishonin promised that the sun will rise in the west if we persevere in practice. This doesn't mean the laws of nature will change. It means that through our prayer and effort, we can create outcomes that once seemed as impossible as the sun rising in the wrong direction. We can turn enemies into friends. We can transform hatred into understanding. We can heal wounds that appeared permanent. We can build bridges across chasms that seemed unbridgeable, all because we dared to believe that our prayers matter, that our lives matter, that each ripple we create contributes to an ocean of positive change that will ultimately embrace this entire world in its compassionate waves.